Welcome to Wealth Wisdom. If you have ambitions to achieve financial success, please leave yes in the comment, and we are here to help you obtain insight and build wealth. The book we are going to share today is Crypto Wars by Erica Stanford. Get the inside scoop on the enigmatic world of cryptocurrency. Whether you know your Dogecoin from your Ethereum, or you think MT Gox is somewhere near MT Fuji, chances are you're at least a little bit curious about the mysterious online world of cryptocurrency. Maybe you've heard about people who bought into Bitcoin on a whim and, seemingly overnight, added a string of zeros to their bank balance. Maybe you've invested in crypto yourself, or you're considering it. Or maybe you're a skeptic who prefers dollars, sterling, yen, and rupees to Litecoin, Ripple, and Coin. Whether you're a crypto convert or cynic, we can all agree that the murky world of crypto is full of fascinating tales and engrossing stories. In this sharing, we'll delve into 4 stories from Erica Stanford's bestseller, Crypto Wars. They feature some illuminating, behind-the-scenes tales that offer an insider's account of the wild, unregulated early days of cryptocurrency. Imagine this, it's 2017 and, all of a sudden, cryptocurrency, a virtual currency that can't be counterfeited or manipulated because every transaction is secured by tamper-proof computer code, has got everyone talking. Not just coders and tech brothers. Everyone. From your next-door neighbor to your old math teacher, everyone seems to know someone who threw a few thousand into Bitcoin early on and who is now quit your job and retire in the Caribbean rich. And plenty of people are wondering how they can get in on the game. Let's say you're interested, too. After all, you're not against turning a few thousand into a few million with just one canny investment. One day, you come across a new cryptocurrency that looks poised to become the next Bitcoin. It's called Plexcoin, and it's about to hit the market in what's known as an ICO, or initial coin offering. Here's the pitch: the ultra-secure Plexcoin is going to revolutionize global economics. Users will be issued with Plex cards which, unlike any other credit card created to date, will fully adapt to different geographic locations, letting you spend in dollars, pounds, rupees, or pesos without ever incurring exchange fees. Unlike other cryptocurrencies, which in 2017 were only accepted by a minuscule selection of vendors, Plexcoin can be used just like real money to pay off any bill. And, if you're one of the lucky investors that gets in on the ground floor, you can purchase tokens for half price in an exclusive pre-sale. That shakes out to just 13 cents a token. If all those pre-sale tokens sell, according to Plexcoin, the price will jump to $1.76 a token. So, are you in? Before we continue, if you are interested in this topic, please consider subscribing and give us a thumb up. Let's continue. Learn to spot some of the biggest red flags in the cryptosphere. If you said no, then you just saved yourself a lot of, hypothetical, money. Plexcoin's pitch was full of red flags. Those outlandish claims about Plex card holders never having to worry about exchange rates and investors being able to use Plexcoin to pay their utility bills? They sounded too good to be true because they were. And there was nothing clairvoyant about Plexcoin's insights into the rising future price of Plexcoin tokens. It's simply impossible to accurately predict what value a currency, crypto or otherwise, will hold in the coming weeks or months. If you'd done some more digging, you'd have found more red flags. For one thing, it's standard practice for crypto companies to release a report ahead of their ICO, outlining how they'll allocate the funds the ICO is projected to raise. Plexcoin did that, about 90 minutes before their pre-sale started. That didn't leave eager investors much time to do their research before buying in. And if you'd looked at their website, you might have noticed there was no team photo. In fact, there was no information about who was behind Plexcoin at all. According to Plexcoin, this was for undisclosed security reasons. They could have at least mimicked the equally scammy crypto startup Benebit and copy-pasted a photo from an elite British boys' school to use on their staff page. Plexcoin's ICO raised $15 million. But their tokens never really rose in value, and their investors never saw the promised ROI. Plexcoin's founders never expected they would. They siphoned off as much of that $15 million as they could before they were arrested for fraud, fined $100,000, and given a 2-month jail term. Most investors never saw their money again. Plexcoin wasn't an isolated case. Between 2016 and 2018, you couldn't throw a Bitcoin without hitting a dodgy crypto startup. While legitimate currencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum have proven to be solid investments, sometimes stratospherically so, the market for crypto was initially barely regulated, poorly policed, and dangerously easy to exploit. The code behind Bitcoin was open source, meaning anyone could access it to create their own company with its own currency. And ICOs offered these companies an unchecked opportunity to raise vast amounts of money by conjuring tokens out of thin air, and then selling them without offering equity or having to meet any legal requirements. For fraudulent crypto companies, this was, quite literally, money for nothing. Nevertheless, investors couldn't get enough. At the peak of the early crypto bubble, the market cap for cryptocurrencies reached a $1.8 trillion valuation. The volatile nature of this emerging market meant that some investors saw real returns, becoming millionaires, and more, overnight. But all bubbles eventually burst. Now, law enforcement estimates that over 98% of crypto ICOs are, at best, failed projects. At worst, they're outright scams. At least some companies were upfront about this. Scamcoin promised investors a 0% return on 100% of their investments, and, unlike many ICOs, it delivered on its promise. Ponzi Coin, despite its unpromising name, still raised $250,000 at its ICO. And plenty of other crypto companies with names like Rich, Gold, or Real seemed to promise authenticity and wealth. Unfortunately, most investors would have done just as well if they'd invested in Scamcoin. The oldest scam in the book. In 2009, when Bitcoin was launched, one token was worth less than a cent. By 2014, one Bitcoin token was valued at roughly $800. No wonder investors were looking to get a foot in the door of the next big cryptocurrency. And in September 2014, OneCoin burst onto the scene. Its charismatic founder, Dr. Ruja Ignatova, all but guaranteed early investors the same staggeringly high returns Bitcoin was now delivering. Dr. Ruja hyped OneCoin as a truly innovative online currency, secured with cutting-edge blockchain technology. But while the product she was spurking was ultra-modern, she was, in reality, running one of the oldest scams in the book. While eager investors were buying up OneCoin's ICO, Dr. Ruja was partnering with a notorious businessman whose involvement with OneCoin should have set alarm bells ringing. This was Igor Alberts, a Dutch businessman who had earned hundreds of millions spearheading multi-level marketing schemes, or MLMs. In an MLM, marketers earn not just by selling products, but by recruiting other sellers and taking a cut of all the profits those sellers, known as the downline, generate. Together, Dr. Ruja and Alberts implemented a similar structure at OneCoin. Investors were incentivized to bring in more investors, with the promise of a very generous 25% cut of any profits from their downline, to be paid part in OneCoin and part in euros, cold, hard cash. Some investors grew very rich very quickly, thanks to these incentives. But their profits were all coming from their downline, and not from the intrinsic value of OneCoin itself. So, what was the intrinsic value of OneCoin? Well, here's where it gets really tricky. On the surface, OneCoin appeared to be gaining value. Investors could look at their wallets and see just how much their tokens were worth on any given day. But cryptocurrency is effectively worthless unless it can be exchanged for other forms of crypto or for cash. There are numerous online platforms that facilitate these exchanges. OneCoin was never listed on any of them. According to Dr. Ruja, it was building its own exchange. But this exchange never materialized. Why didn't the fact that OneCoin couldn't be exchanged for any other form of currency raise concern? Well, lots of investors trusted the value they saw in their wallets, and with good reason. Cryptocurrency is ultra-secure, thanks to the blockchain databases where it's stored. Every transaction is written into the database in independent code that can't be overwritten. This means not even the inventor of the code can alter a token's value. Classic scam meets cutting-edge crypto Ponzi scheme. There's just one problem here. Although Dr. Ruja told her investors otherwise, OneCoin never actually used blockchain. Instead, every single OneCoin token was stored in a different database, one that Dr. Ruja could not only access, but manipulate without detection. The values investors saw in their wallets? Totally fabricated. So, OneCoin was never a legitimate currency. And it wasn't even a shifty MLM. It was something worse, a Ponzi scheme. A Ponzi scheme uses an MLM structure. The difference is that, though the Ponzi scheme purports to sell something, there's actually no product. Profits are only generated through the downline. Investors remain unaware that the returns they're seeing are actually generated by other investors rather than profit from the sales of a product. Authorities, regulators, and banks around the world began warning investors that OneCoin was most likely a Ponzi scheme. Existing customers got spooked and tried to offload their tokens. New investors proved harder to attract, and the downline began to dry up. It seemed inevitable that OneCoin would soon collapse and Dr. Ruja would be brought to account. But Dr. Ruja had other ideas. And she certainly had no intention of paying back the millions she had fleeced from trusting investors. In 2017, she boarded a Ryanair flight from Sofia, Bulgaria, to Athens, Greece. She was, allegedly, met at the airport by some Russian connections. She hasn't been seen since. What happened to Dr. Ruja? There are all kinds of theories out there. The Russians who met her at the airport were actually gangsters who spirited her away to a safe hiding place. Or the Russians who met her at the airport were hitmen who killed her. Or she used some of the vast wealth at her disposal to have heavy-duty plastic surgery, buy fake identity documents, and start a new life, incognito. Of all these wild possibilities, there's one that's particularly implausible, the possibility that OneCoin's investors will ever see their money again. Crypto storage isn't always as secure as you'd think. Dr. Ruja's mysterious disappearance isn't exactly unique among dodgy crypto founders. The exit scam, where a founder suddenly disappears, taking their investors' money with them, has quickly become a classic maneuver in cryptocurrency circles. But while most exit scams leave investors wondering whether a scam artist founder is still alive, one alleged exit scam has left investors questioning whether a founder is really dead. On the crypto scene, Gerald Cotton had a reputation as a wunderkind. He founded the Canada-based crypto exchange, Quadriga CX, at the precocious age of 25. Even more impressive, in a notoriously unregulated online space, Quadriga CX had a reputation for being quick, safe, and totally above board. Quadriga CX wasn't a big player to start with. But knowledgeable investors rated the exchange as both a reliable platform for trading cryptocurrencies or converting crypto to cash and as a secure, temporary storage place for crypto assets. Then, Cotton was dealt a lucky hand. 6 weeks after Quadriga CX was launched, a series of cyber attacks targeted other, larger exchanges like Cavertex, Vault of Satoshi, and Mt. Gox, seriously damaging their security credentials. Not long after that, Bitcoin's value started to soar. And that was very good news for Cotton. Like other exchanges, Quadriga CX made money by taking a small percentage of every trade done on the platform. Suddenly, tokens that had been trading for a few $100s were trading for tens of thousands, and every time, Quadriga CX got a healthy cut. Cotton enjoyed his newfound wealth, purchasing multiple homes, yachts, private jets, and even an island. Cotton financed his impressively expensive lifestyle with Quadriga CX's profits and by dipping into the coins others had stored on his exchange. It turns out, Quadriga CX's reputation as one of the safest exchanges around was unfounded. Unlike other crypto exchanges, Quadriga didn't grant investors access to individual wallets. There was, in fact, only one wallet. And only one person, it transpired, could access the estimated $250 million worth of tokens stored there. Gerald Cotton had access to every single token stored on Quadriga CX. He also had a habit of using those tokens to trade under false names, spinning still more profits that went straight into his own pockets. In 2018, Cotton married his girlfriend Jennifer Robertson. The pair were enjoying a typically lavish honeymoon in India when Cotton unexpectedly died of complications from Crohn's disease. It was a tragic end to a happy holiday. It was a financial tragedy, too, for all the investors storing crypto in Quadriga CX. Because when Cotton died, He took all the private keys needed to access the tokens that were stored on his exchange with him. Small crypto concerns can be manipulated to bring big returns, for some. Many in the crypto community, among them Cotton's creditors, believe he faked his death. They've even called for an exhumation of his remains. They note the shady circumstances around his death, right down to the misspelling of his name on his death certificate. Cotton drafted a will a mere 4 days before he died. After his death, rather than sending his body to the embalmers as was their usual practice, the hospital sent Cotton's corpse back to his hotel. The hotel then sent the corpse to the embalmer, but the embalmer didn't accept the body, stating that there was no cause of death supplied alongside Cotton's corpse. Eventually, a medical college did the deed. Cotton's widow accompanied the body back to Canada, where Cotton was given a closed-casket funeral, but she didn't announce his death for another month. In the meantime, QuadraGasCX was still accepting new customers. One of Cotton's contractors remembered that Cotton kept a safe bolted to his attic rafters. This contained many, if not all, of the private keys needed to access the crypto stored on QuadraGasCX. Hearing of Cotton's death, the contractor went to the house. Reportedly, all they found in the attic were 4 holes in the rafters where the safe had once been bolted. The keys, like Cotton himself, had disappeared. The crypto market has had more than its fair share of big scams. Funnily enough, some of the biggest scams revolve around some of the smallest, least successful currencies. Remember in the heady days of the mid-2010s, when a silly number of ICOs flooded the market? The end result was a silly number of currencies that had little function or value. We're talking about very small fish in a very big pond. Some of these currencies were so insignificant that the major crypto exchanges wouldn't even list them. But smaller exchanges operating on the wild fringes of the market were often less discriminating. Some would list any currency that came calling, which is how some of the market's smallest currencies came to be manipulated to deliver big returns. How does this happen? Well, unless you have Jeff Bezos money, there's no way you can manipulate the value of Bitcoin with a single buy or sell, it's simply too valuable. But with small, niche currencies, it's a different story. With a small currency, roughly $10,000 would be enough to place a buy or sell order large enough to drastically impact the currency's value. If you were to place a large sell order, for example, you could spook the market. Investors would offload their coin, which you could then scoop up for a song. Once the currency's value corrected itself, you'd have made a tidy profit. On the other hand, you could make a large buy. Doing this would artificially drive up the currency's value, and you could sell your tokens off for more than they're really worth. This kind of trade is known as a pump and dump. Soon, pump and dump groups organized through the messaging service Telegram were orchestrating these trades, wildly inflating a currency's value for a day or two, and then pocketing the profits. YouTubers in the cryptosphere got in on the action, too. Their signature move? Release a seemingly informational clip about a promising niche currency, a currency they've already bought into, thus luring inexperienced investors to pump up the price. While still spurking the currency in their online videos, the crypto YouTuber quietly sells off their own holdings. With even a small amount of influence, a small, volatile market can be easily manipulated. What happens when someone with a huge amount of influence gets to work in that same market? Bubbles can be built and burst with a single tweet. You might not know John McAfee, but, thanks to his ubiquitous computer pop-ups, you're almost certainly familiar with the antivirus software he created. In 1994, McAfee the person sold his shares in McAfee Antivirus, banked $100 million, and went to Belize. There, if stories are to be believed, he attempted to invent female Viagra, created natural antibiotics from plants, got addicted to bath salts, and, this last story is verifiably true, became embroiled in a murder and made it onto the Belizean police's wanted list. In 2012, McAfee fled Belize for Guatemala and, to avoid extradition back to Belize, ultimately returned to the US, where he quickly became interested in cryptocurrency. In 2017, McAfee infamously tweeted that Bitcoin would be worth $500,000 a coin in 2020, and if it wasn't he'd eat a specific part of his anatomy on live television. Yes, that specific part. Meanwhile, over the course of the year, Bitcoin went from $2,000 a token to nearly $20,000 a token. Was this partly due to McAfee's confidence? One man, named Peter Galenko, thought it might be. Galenko had invested in a niche currency called Verge. When Verge was tipped as the next hot investment, Galenko's holdings quadrupled in value. He saw how buzz could drive up profit and began promoting Verge to his own 60,000 Twitter followers. But he wasn't satisfied. He wanted a bigger reach. So, he contacted McAfee, who obliged Galenko's request by tweeting that Verge was an investment that couldn't lose. Verge's market capitalization soared to a valuation of $2 billion, representing a 1,800% increase of its prior valuation. Galenko was pleased. McAfee was not. He wanted payment in kind and demanded $1 million in crypto from Galenko, which Galenko refused to pay. So McAfee tweeted again, this time saying Verge wasn't worth anything near $2 billion. Verge's bubble burst shortly afterwards. So much for Galenko's scheme. McAfee, however, continued to use his social media accounts to influence crypto markets, right up until he was arrested and charged with fraudulently touting ICOs. These days, as crypto becomes more legitimate and trading becomes increasingly regulated, the market has become harder to manipulate. But many early adopters still remember the days when Bitcoin investors turned into overnight millionaires, when the price of a token could climb from $1 or $2 into the tens and hundreds of thousands, and when one man with a Twitter account was enough to send the valuation of obscure currencies soaring. That's the end of today's sharing. If you like our content, please give us a thumb up and share it with your friends. See you next time.